The topic for today, my friends, is blended learning strategies, integrating traditional methods with digital tools for enhanced engagement. Blended learning, as you know, is an educational approach that allows you to mix traditional with modern. So while the teachers can interact with the learners, explain concepts to them, it also allows that most modern learning strategies and technologies are also integrated in the learning process, making learning to be flexible and a personalized experience. My friends, my first question goes to Mrs. Sandhya Pradeep. Ms. Pradeep, I would like to ask you, ma'am, what are the key benefits of blended learning in today's classroom? Over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Rashmi. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible, Sandhya.
Now, we all know that students learn in different ways. Some of them grasp concepts very quickly, while others need more time. Some enjoy reading, while others prefer videos or hands on activities. Now, blended learning, or what we call as BL, brings the best of both the worlds, traditional teaching and digital tools, to make learning more effective, engaging, and accessible to all involved. Now, we are going to break down exactly why this shift to BL matters and how it's going to benefit both the students and educators. Let's start with the biggest benefit or advantage, that is personalized learning. Knowingly or unknowingly, most of us educators, we are using all of these in our classroom. We just need to have a concrete idea about it. Now, every student has their own pace, right? That is where AI powered platforms come in. They analyze the student's progress, they customize lessons to fit their needs. Now, for example, if you imagine a student who's struggling with fractions, instead of moving ahead without understanding, the AI driven platform will suggest targeted practice, gives instant feedback, and ensures that the mastery level is reached before moving on. Now, this approach is very helpful in order to close learning gaps, which is actually an issue in that we face, and it also boosts the confidence of the student. Um, let's be very honest, long lectures can be very boring, but if we use AR or VR tools that are available to us, and if we could get our students to visit the solar system through VR or conduct virtual science experiments, which, by the way, many of us have done during the COVID time, learn about French Revolution, from France, or solve these mathematics puzzles through gamified apps right in the classroom. How the learning will change. That's exactly what blended learning does in the classroom. Another notable strength of BL that I would like to address here is accessibility. Breaking barriers, learning anytime, anywhere, it is a game changer. It's especially helpful for students who face challenges, in terms of physical disabilities or learning difficulties. Now, all my fellow colleagues would agree to the fact that as we move on, there are more and more children, who face difficulties. It could either be because of the learning gap or any other. So, blended learning can really be helpful in terms of accessibility. Students in rural areas, they can connect with the top educators through government as well as private initiatives. And
Absolutely.
yes,
Very well said.
and BL is also very impactful in bridging the urban and the rural divide. That is something which normally we don't look into in a country like India, where digital infrastructure is still growing, and students in rural area, they miss out on the top tier educators or cutting edge resources. With blended learning, these students also have access to the same learning tools and content like all the other children in
Totally
the.
agree with you, Sandhya. Very well said. And blended learning actually opens doors for adaptive learning where each and every child's learning gap can be addressed. Thank you so much. That was very succinctly put.
Thank
Now,
you.
my next question goes to Miss Sapna Sankala from School R&K Residential Senior Secondary School. Dear Sapna ma'am, please enlighten all of us. How can schools effectively balance traditional teaching strategies with digital tools? It's very important. Balance is always very important. We should not be overdoing either. So, a very tough question goes to you.
Thank you so much. Am I audible to all of you?
Very much audible.
So, a very pleasant evening to everyone. And indeed, the topic what you have chosen is something which is very, very relevant and something which is very thought provoking. And as said by Mrs. Sandhya about the advantages of blended learning, I do agree with all those points which were raised by her. But I feel when we are talking about a balance in traditional teaching methods and digital tools, we need to be very, very cautious about it because of late, you all would have observed that in the name of blended learning or in the name of digital technology or technology based learning, somewhere what is happening is the technology based learning is totally getting replaced by the traditional methods. And somewhere the teachers feel that using digital tools and technology is something which is enough and that will make our children to learn. And that's why balancing is very, very crucial and very important. So, as teachers, they should be very, very clear about how do you actually use both traditional teaching methods and digital both. We should not just have only one, like it's the teacher uses only traditional methods or the teacher uses only digital methods. It's not going to be really good. So it should be blended in the true sense. So when we talk about how do we balance, when there is a thoughtful integration of both the approaches, then there would be a balance. So, actually speaking, a teacher should do or should plan the lesson in such a way that there is a scope to use both traditional and digital methods. And why it is required? Because if it is too much of only digital technology being used, somewhere we are going to miss out on very, very important points and very important considerations which are required in a teaching learning process. And teachers should also make sure that it is not the screen time. The screen time should not replace hands-on learning experience, discussions, and other interactive activities which goes on in a classroom. So there has to be a balance between between both. And one most important thing is the teacher should understand that a digital tool is there to complement the traditional method rather than replacing it. It is like both are completing each other. Like simple examples, there can be a class, let us say, where a high school teacher is teaching about cell structure or a cell biology, right? How can we integrate digital and traditional? Let me just explain it. Let us talk about the pre-classroom activity. In a pre-classroom activity where a teacher wants to teach about a cell, right? There can be a video recorded by a teacher where the teacher explains about the different parts of a cell and there can be an online quiz. And that becomes the first pre-session, pre-lesson activity, which the students go through the video and then they also do the quiz. And then comes the during class activity, wherein there can be hands-on experiences where the students are allowed to observe the slide under the microscope and then find out all those parts which the teacher has explained. And then there can be a group discussion and that becomes a pre-class activity where you are using a blended mode
Yes,
wherein the
yes.
students do a hands-on activity and then they also have
This is
some
the perfect
interactive
lesson that
session.
anybody could have explained. Thank you so much, Sapna. I mean, I was waiting with bated breath when you are going to mention the experiential learning part of it and all that.
Yeah.
So, you have given us great insights in how to bring a balance
Yeah,
between the traditional methods and also how to integrate technology.
technology.
So,
Yeah.
thank you so much. That was a wonderful piece of, insights that you have shared with us, and the example that you gave was perfect. I now move on to Miss Subha Sriram from Wells Vidyashram, Chennai. Dear Subha ma'am, good
Yes,
afternoon.
ma'am, good
Welcome.
afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very, very
Yes.
clearly. And
Okay, ma'am.
let me
Okay.
share the question with you. What challenges do teachers face when implementing blended learning, and can they overcome these challenges? So, what are the challenges that teachers face when implementing blended learning?
Yes, ma'am. Most important question.
Yes,
On hearing the first two speakers, it is now very sure that we cannot do away with this blended learning anymore.
absolutely.
It has to be a combination of both traditional as well as online modes. But on the other side, there are a lot of challenges which the teachers face in a day to day classroom situation on doing this blended learning. Especially this period of COVID is when we actually started moving on to a lot of digital mode of teaching and learning. That was a big struggle for the teachers. One is, are our teachers equipped for this online teaching techniques? Are we aware of all those apps which are available, which could be used in the classroom? So, how much are we teachers professionally trained for that is a big question. But many a times, the feedback from the teachers tells that they are actually, they have been resisting to such changes. That is the first and the foremost thing which actually restricts this kind of blended teaching learning to happen in the classrooms. The other one is talking about the technical challenges, the access to the internet, or the connectivity issues, or the device requirements in the classroom, or all the problems which comes or which restricts or minimizes the blended teaching learning. And it has to be mentioned that there is an increase of workload on the part of the teachers because I would say a proper blend of this blended learning and the traditional technique will be 50-50, I would say, or 60-40. So teachers have to give their fullest for preparing for the 60% of traditional teaching and work little more to equip themselves and become more ready for a blended teaching. Like, for example, going in for an online teaching. So there is an increased overload, work overload for the teachers. Another important distraction, or I would say a limitation for this blended learning, what I see in the real time classroom is maintaining a student engagement. I somewhere feel that there is a lack of connectivity among the teachers and the students. There is a kind of a student isolation which is actually happening because of this blended learning. So, how do we overcome that challenge? What the teacher faces? Another challenge which we face in this blended learning is about the difficulties in assessments. How do the teachers assess for a descriptive writing or a subjective writing of the content which is dealt? So these are all the problems what the teachers face in the real time situation. How do we actually help our teachers for this blended learning is a big question. But I would, yes, ma'am. What I would say is a very comprehensive planning, a thorough professional development sessions, and a support system from people like you who are into this field with a very, very genuine approach towards bringing this technology into the classroom teaching, I think would help. Platforms like this LMS would be a big support system for the teachers to actually ease out and make blended learning a very comfortable mode and a very approachable and easy mode for the children to learn.
Yes, Subha ma'am, thank you so much for putting it so beautifully.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
totally agree with you that the need of the hour is to handhold our teachers, to support them, to make them believe that we are with you, we will help you.
Yes, ma'am.
Biggest challenge I have felt in my 40-year-long career is the mindset. They
True,
are so scared. The children know more technology than them.
true. Very true,
That
very
is
true.
that is their biggest fear. So, but you have given us such wonderful insights, which I'm sure are going to help thousands of teachers who will watch this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So, my next question goes to Ms. Radhika Ravi, Principal Aditya Vidyashram, Gurugram E-Techno School.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Radhika here.
Uh, Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you? Radhika, ma'am? Good.
Top of the world. How are
Yeah.
you, ma'am?
Good.
Yeah.
So, my question to you, ma'am, is that how can blended learning personalize educational experience to meet the needs of different students? This is about personalization. How is it going to help each child to learn?
Okay, fine. Before we answer the question, I'll just make the session light, like no making you all feel happy and ice breaking session. I said there was a math teacher who had a doubt in English, and so he went to the English teacher and checked with, my dear teacher, 2 and 2 is 4 or 2 and 2 are 4. The reply from the English teacher was, sorry, sir, I'm very weak in maths. So, jokes apart, like anywhere, if you see the blending happens, two different things, which means two individuals or two different ideas or anything which is having a two items kind of like no where you can see blending of all the thing wherein no one or the other one can be respected or the kind of value of the other one also cannot be left as it is. So when it comes to teaching to children such kind of things, I remember like no my old days gone are those days where we were taught in our school all the management skills including like know how to handle people or how to respect all these values. Now what happens, what all we had taught, like we had learned, like nothing is left with in writing. So what I do in my practice is my personal experiences. I just keep saving in my system and I just keep recording and making the YouTube channels like no that is how we did. So the kind of next generation when they come, it is a record which is going to be shown where I am able to blend the traditional learning what I had learned to the modern technology of teaching, wherein which the children get to know the usage of techniques of these systems. And that is how I look at it. I'm trying to do this practice in my school where I could also help my children to learn to spend quality time with parents more than spending the time on screens. And so these experiences they could do maybe for their future generations, and that is what I look at this. And this personal experience really helps me out in making my school a flourishing one. In fact, all my parents here in this school say we are very happy to see the things which we also had learned. So like 80s bonds or 60s bonds or 70s bonds, those period of people like we maybe who are able to have a kind of like-mindedness when it comes to their child's teaching. Not all like no depend on the devices wherein which we only tell them not to look at the phone, but then at the end of the day, very unfortunately, we give the homework through Google Classroom. So the child has to necessarily look into the system, and also like they are prone into the kind of more of this network only. So if that is the case, I request the parents to spend their quality time and know the kind of interaction what they have. Later after, if that is all added or saved in a system, and that should be the kind of experience for all of us to look into, so that the technology also could be used in a proper way and our children would be saved for their life forever. I think I would end
Radhika,
up my
ma'am,
answer in
I
a
think,
very short and sweet way. Yes, ma'am.
dear Radhika, ma'am, this is a very, very, very clear-cut answer which actually connects all the dots. You know, you are teaching them how to to transition from tradition to modern, and you're also involving the parents, so you're completing the circle. I think this is an example of a very successful model of blended learning, how to go about it. Thank you
And,
so much.
and that is why they are called as named as technological tools. No human
Yes.
being could be, or no teacher could be replaced by another technological,
Oh,
robotic,
no,
or
no
something like that.
ways. No
So they are
ways.
only tools. We are
Yeah.
only using it, and let us
Yeah.
make it
They are
effectively.
tools for us to use and to
Yes.
improve our ways. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you so much.
I move on to Dr. R. Kishore Kumar, Principal and Chairman, St. John's Public School. Sir, a very warm welcome to you. May I, also seek your views about how this how we can use the blended learning to personalize education for each child. Personalization is so important. We cannot treat the children, like a group of 40. We have to teach every child as an individual. So I would like to request you to share your precious insights with us. Thank you so much. Over
Thank
to
you,
you.
madam. Thank you so much. It's so happily listening to every one of you interacting and speaking to us. Let me profusely thank the COVID time for having introduced this wonderful blended learning concept into Indian schools. We are really honored that the students, teachers, parents, management blended together and very thoughtfully thought of this blended learning concept into an Indian education system. For the last 3 4 years, the Indian schools survived mostly based off the blended learning concept. I understand, and I've been able to listen to all the educators who have been very, very profusely talking on this. But I have a great concern when you have been asking me to talk on the how personalized it could be. See, there are a lot of stakeholders on this. The most important stakeholders in this, more than the students and the teachers, they are the parents. The mindset of the parents is now getting mind blocked on this concept. It is not the technology that is going to drive institutions, it is human resources what's going to drive the institutions. I feel, madam, mostly what I understand is we have to make things feasible for the complete educational system to understand what is blended learning. No, I have a concern. See, it is not that all parents are able to understand what is a blended learning. See, when I have a parent with IT background, or when I have a parent with a very different laborer background, or maybe he's an industry of a different nature, he doesn't or she doesn't understand the importance of the blended learning. So here comes a challenge which we need to understand. The next challenge, what I see, is among the teachers. Not all teachers are resourcefully strong in implementing blended learning. Maybe we were compelled to use the blended learning during our COVID times. But how many of the schools are continuing to use the blended learning effectively beyond the COVID time? So mostly what happened, no, teachers slip into, the institutions slip into, the principals slip into a more traditional way of learning. But today, what happened, no, the attention span of children are dropping. We can't, because children are now used to the screen. They are more fascinated by the screen, which they see for seconds, not even minutes. So they want the teachers to be very fast. They want the teachers to be more. No, we have a challenge in school when we think of blended learning. We need experienced teachers with 40, 50 years of teaching experience. But we also need one, when it comes to such teachers, know what they do is they are not able to blend with the blended learning. When we go to the young teachers who are too good in blending, the resources are getting short. Lesser, their attitudes are not getting blended with the educational needs of the children, because for me, every student is a seed for the future. Now, how do we channelize the content, what they are supposed to learn, how they could channelize the curriculum, what they need to do, how they could channelize the learning ability today into the children is more important than even talking about the tool call, even talking about the tool call blended learning as a tool. Now we need to understand now, as teachers today, they have to be given a lot of orientation by the institution. Then only we can use the word personalized learning. If the teachers are not so personalized and understanding what is the basic concept of the blended learning, how are they going to take it up? It's not an assignment. It's really a very attentiveness which the teachers have to take care, that
Yes.
they have to divide the curriculum into these are the areas that traditional teaching is more important, these are the areas where I need to blend it with the technology supported learning. This is what is more important now. It is very important, some of the lessons, some of the parts of the lessons, some of the curriculum has to be only taught in the traditional manner, but some of the lessons which are more complicated, now we can go into. See, for example, a child should not come and tell me my teacher showed me on video and he thought the lesson is over. No, a video cannot finish a lesson unless the teacher gives her human touch, human resources, connecting the lesson to the child. That is where the good happening is happening. It is between a very effective teacher and a very very attentive student. That is where the meeting point of a good learning happening. But how do we use this blended learning to make it very effective? It's like making a very 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 tasteful what do you call a menu in the kitchen. A good lady knows, a good lady knows how to prepare something so good. No, if you give the same coffee every day, no, you have to make it. Even our spouse, when they come and give us the same thing, same cup of coffee, no, in the same cup, we know how to deliver it to the children. Is where today we have to understand, no, the blended learning is something very everybody knows. It's not that you and I alone know. Everybody know what is blended learning. We can't now talk only about blended learning, how to make it more resourceful to the
Very
classes.
well said. Very
Yes,
well
that
said.
is what
And
I think
yeah,
it is very important to the children. Now, it is
yeah,
not setting up a STEM lab and say, I'm going for a technology. How do you use it?
yeah.
It's not that I have a Max lab and I feel very I have a Max lab. That is not the important. Now, important is how are these resources, technologically driven resources, that is required because today children want it. Children want that fast. Children want that fast phase. And how do we really
Absolutely.
convert the blended learning into very resourceful point of contact for the young children right from pre-KG right up to 12th
Absolutely.
standard? How
Absolutely.
appropriately we do, that is the challenge as
Yeah.
per me as a teacher, I would like to share with you.
I totally agree with you, and such a wonderful insight when you gave the example of a chef, that anybody who wants to make a good dish, no matter how hi-fi or modern the dish is, should know the basics of cooking, should know the foundation of cooking. So a teacher who has to use technology must be an excellent teacher, knowing all the traditional ways, the experiential learning and all, everything they should know, how to blend it all together. Thank you so much, sir. These were
Thank you.
wonderful insights.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
And with this, I come to Miss Anita, Principal Shri Krishna Swami Vidyashram. Anita ji, please tell us, what role does student engagement play in blended learning, and how can technology enhance it? You know, engagement, active engagement in the learning process is most important. The child has to be actively engaged. So, how does technology help in this? How does blended learning help child to be actively engaged with learning? Is our question to you. Over to you, ma'am.
A very good evening, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am? Ma'am, now I
Ma'am, you'll have to speak a
Yes,
little
yes,
loudly.
you're absolutely
a
audible.
bit louder.
Yes, ma'am.
You are audible now.
Now, okay, ma'am.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
A very good evening to everyone. Uh, Actually, the ultimate aim of education is making the students to understand the concept, get some basic knowledge and also skills, and apply that in their future life, and using that to have a comfortable life. Now, coming to this blended learning, the engagement of students, it is highly possible one and only because of blended learning, I will say, because we have various types of learners, like visual learners, auditory learners, interpersonal, intrapersonal learners. Now, as per the traditional learning, traditional way of teaching, out of 40 students in a class, maximum 10 kids will attend the class, very attractive, will be attracted towards the teacher. But what about the other 30 students? They may have different types of no attitude. Now, when it comes to this technology based blended learning, we can cover almost all type of these learners. For example, when we teach history, geography, or in particular science, biology kind of subjects and all, as per the traditional learning, when the teacher no keep on give lecture, almost those who are not interested may not listen it. But now, when it comes to this blended learning, using the tools, all this online availabilities, we can show colorful pictures and the real time images, say geography and all, instead of explaining with the words, because the teachers they know very well about that, starting from the KG kids to the 12th standard kids, the teachers know the concept very well. So with the 1000% interest, they will try to explain their concept. But for many children, those points may be very new. So without knowing what is that exactly, they will blindly listen. But now, when we use this blended learning, for sure they will get attracted. It will engage almost all 40 children of the class, and for sure we can get very good academic result. And another very important thing from the point of the principals and the school operating people, if I get 5 science teacher, I may not get all the 5 as the extraordinary expertized teachers. Maybe 1 or 2 will have very good interest. They will engage everyone. They will take the class in a very attractive way. But there may be 1 or 2 teachers who are very new, who may not show interest. But when I force them to use this kind of blended things, no, they can use all the sources which are very attractive, which will make the students to involve in the listening process. So, and one more thing, it is like time saving, energy saving, and very important money
Absolutely.
saving method also. Because of that, I
Absolutely.
can use like all the students will get complete knowledge, complete involvement.
Anita ma'am, thank you so much. I really loved your thought of multiple intelligences, children who are kinesthetic learners or who are visual learners or different kind of intelligences can all be accessed through blended learning model. This was a very, very well thought out answer. Thank you so much.